Hi, my name is Avery Hall, and my chosen research topic is the nuclear family in ancient Greece. So, the definition of the nuclear family today, specifically in America, is a couple and their dependent children regarded as the basic social unit. While this varies around the world, most people view the nuclear family to contain fewer people than the ancient Greeks did. When researching this topic, it became clear that the people living in one household in ancient Greece looks different than the traditional norms in America these days. The oikos, or family group, included all those living under the same roof and typically consisted of 3 generations. The leader of the oikos, the kyrios, was typically the oldest male. The oikos consisted of the kyrios and his wife, as well as his unmarried daughters, his sons and their wives, his grandchildren, his slaves, and his livestock, as well as other properties. For me, it's always interesting to place a specific emphasis on the role of women when looking at any kind of history. In the context of the oikos, women had important roles in the religious sphere. They were also important in the growth of the household. Having children helped continue the legacy and influence of the Kyrios. Not a lot is known about the familial structure from archaeological evidence. Instead, much of what is known is centered around written works, including stories such as the Homeric works, as well as other texts like Xenophon's Oikonomicos or Antigone by Sophocles. In addition to literary works, scenes depicted on pottery are commonly used to derive information about the oikos. Because of this, there is an inherent ethnocentric view of the ancient oikos, because most of what has been preserved, especially when looking at pottery, has come out of Athens. It also ties back into why not a lot is known about the household. There aren't a lot of remains that are able to be excavated because many of them are under the dwellings of modern Athenian citizens. However, there are still remnants from other city-states, or as they were known in ancient Greece, the polis. Using these remnants, one can piece together different styles of the oikos depending on the polis. So here you can see different examples of pottery from 3 different polis or city-states in ancient Greece: Athens, Corinth, and Thebes. All of them depict a different kind of oikos, and they're in different styles of pottery that make them distinct to the polis that they've come from. Continuing in this line of thinking, it brings up the question of how much of someone's role is determined by their place in the polis and how much is determined by their place in their oikos. Cicero, an ancient politician, believed that marriage, children, and the family were the basis of the state. A common line of thinking has that the negligence of either the polis or the oikos brings about the downfall of the other. For this, it can be good to look at different stories like that of Agamemnon. What happened to his oikos and polis after he left it to go off to battle? And how did the expectations of women shift without a figurehead Kyrios in the home? Another case study is that of Jason and his wife Medea after he left his oikos to marry in Corinth. What were the consequences of his leaving, and how did the roles of his household, specifically his wife, change? Both of these case studies give more information about the role of the oikos and how it's different from the role of the polis. My final product will be a paper, and I will address the following questions. First, what is an oikos, and what are the roles of the different members of the oikos? The different members specifically being the women and children, which are roles that are typically acknowledged and under-researched when looking just at a general view of the oikos. Next, how do these roles change based on the polis? So, do we see different roles for women and children based on which polis we're looking at? In the absence of a Kyrios, how do the roles in the oikos change? And that's kind of along the lines of those specific case studies that I mentioned that were from stories of oikos after a Kyrios is missing. And finally, are there current tangible archaeological findings that show the differences between each polis, or are a lot of these differences being explained by assumptions or speculation? Thank you for watching my presentation. I'm super excited to continue researching this topic and expanding on each of the presented questions. If you have any questions about the information I presented today, please let me know.